So this is going to be another movie review. This one's called 12 Angry Men. It's the first of my libertarian playlist, I guess, on Netflix. Ironically, the libertarian movie playlist has a lot of rated G kids movies. One of them being A Bug's Life, which I've never seen. Looks pretty bad. I let my son watch it before I watched it. That's going to be my next movie review, probably A Bug's Life. Watch Ants and Chicken Run, which are also on the list. I didn't particularly care for this movie. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. There's a lot of patronizing talk about the Constitution and democracy and whatnot. It's kind of I guess pro-U.S. movie, I guess, in that respect. The rule of law and democracy and all that stuff. Oh man, I'm not a big fan of democracy or the Constitution for that matter. Although I have used the Constitution as argument in court, so it's not to say that the Constitution is all bad. I mean, it can be used for good things if you know how to use it properly. So I kind of have mixed feelings about the Constitution. I mean, in my ideal world, there would be no government or Constitution or people voting themselves to all these government goodies and stuff. That's just me, but I guess you can call me an anarchist crank, kind of a kook guy. So maybe, obviously, this movie wasn't made for an audience like me. I'll put it to you that way. It's pretty tame. It kind of has the pacing of a soap opera, a lot of dialogue, good acting, by the way. Which is not to say this is a bad movie by any stretch. I guess it was nominated for some Oscar awards. Sidney Lumet, by the way, not coincidentally, is the same guy who directed Network, which is another kind of fuck the state kind of movie. In some respects, I guess. I've never actually seen the television movie Network, but I like the guy, the news reporter, who shouts out the window, "I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore." So that looks like a pretty cool movie. I've never actually seen it other than the famous clip of what's his name shouting out the window, "I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore." So this movie's in black and white. Like I said, it's about, well, I guess I haven't talked about the plot, have I? Well, yeah, it's in black and white. A lot of dialogue, I said. And that's because it's 12 jurors. And they're deliberating the murder case of an 18-year-old boy supposedly murdering his dad. Initially, Henry Fonda is the only holdout of not guilty. The other 11 vote guilty. But eventually, he gradually persuades them that, there is a reasonable doubt in this case that the boy didn't not murder his father. And even go into the credibility of the witnesses, the knife that was used. They go into great detail. I think Henry Fonda plays an architect, but he's kind of like me. He should have been a lawyer instead. Because I've been involved a lot in the law lately, especially with my divorce. It's been dragging on for like 3 years. Um, so I can't say that it hasn't been a challenge. Okay, let me just put it to you that way. Coming up with those trial briefs was a pain in the ass, but I did it. So I don't know. Of course, the appeals court said they had jurisdiction, so they've got to rule on something, making them work. So this one's got a lot of big name actors from the 50s, 60s, 70s, etc. Yeah, right up until the 70s probably. Henry Fonda being one of them. Of course, Jack Klugman, who played Felix Unger's roommate. I forgot his name. In the Odd Couple TV show, which used to play on television when I was a kid. Dun 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 dun. Had that kind of 70s tune. Gets stuck in your head after you listen to it a couple times. Anyways, I guess I'm being nitpicky about it. Too much dialogue and too much self-promoting Constitution and democracy, pounding on the chest. Yeah, I'm proud to be an American, kind of stuff. I didn't care too much for that. But I kind of admired Peter Fonda's idealism, his intelligence, and his ability to sway the jurors' opinions. I'm not going to spoil the ending, but you can pretty much guess what happens at the end. It's really hot in that room, too. Everybody's sweating. And all of a sudden it starts raining and the fan works. The fan's busted initially. They got like a bigoted guy there. They got a guy who hates his son because his son deserted him after he took care of him. Blah, 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 blah. There's another guy. I guess those are the two main antagonist guys. The bigot and the loudmouth who hates his son for deserting him. Yeah, I guess I'd feel the same way if my son deserted me. I'd be like, well, why did I make all this effort trying to teach you Khan Academy and Catholic religion and all this stuff? You know what I mean? Anyways, I could sort of relate to where he was coming from. I'd probably feel the same way. Something like that happened between me and my son. We had a falling out or something like that. Could happen, you know. Anything can happen when kids become teenagers and whatnot. So I think that was kind of an interesting kind of the way that played out. He really hated his son for leaving him. And I guess he saw some of his son in that 18-year-old boy who was being charged with murder. So it's kind of an interesting way to shoot a movie. I mean, the entire movie consists of these jurors in this juror room deliberating the whole time. And it's pretty cool. I mean, they go into, like I said, they go into great detail about the case, all of the inconsistencies and the kind of absurd kind of witness testimony. And the loudmouth guy calls him bleeding heart. I don't know why. I guess because he hates his son. kind of get that impression towards the end. So that was kind of interesting. And yeah, I thought it was all right. I mean, if you want to see a movie about the law, I would suggest, highly recommend the Nuremberg Trials, which is a much better movie than this one. I think this one's a bit overrated in my opinion. I think it gets a very high 8.9 out of 10 on IMDb. Maybe I'm just biased against democracy and the Constitution and all this America #1 stuff. Or USA #1. I don't know. I just thought it was too corny. And anytime I hear the word democracy, it makes me cringe. I wish instead of tomorrow's election, we'd just get hit by a meteor or something. You know, the second coming of Christ or something like that. That would be far more interesting than tomorrow's charade, which I refuse to participate in. I think I had enough of democracy, especially after, you know, having to go through 3 years of hell and divorce court. That was the final nail in the coffin that convinced me not to vote. Besides, the lady who owns this house, she always delivers my absentee ballot after the friggin' election is over. So she's kind of helping me in a way to avoid the addiction of voting. Or participating in the system, so to speak. I suppose being on a jury like this is more of a civic duty than voting, actually. And there's an organization called Fully Informed Jury Association that's probably far more effective than, say, the Libertarian Party is at affecting change. I bet you the Libertarian Party will be lucky if they get 1% of the vote tomorrow. The polls show 7% for the Libertarians, but it's always less than that on election day. At least that's what happened with their last Republican lackey by the name of Bob Barr, who's no longer Libertarian, by the way. He's like William Weld. He kind of jumped ship after the election, I guess. Became another drug warrior Republican, kind of devolved back to his old self. So that wasn't too surprising about Bob Barr, one of the instigators of Bill Clinton's impeachment in the U.S. House of Representatives, which wasn't a bad thing per se, but I wish my ex-wife would get the same kind of justice as Bill Clinton did. You know, at least have charges brought against her, contempt charges. But that's very difficult to prove, as Bill Clinton was acquitted ultimately. So I don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, 12 Angry Men. It was kind of an interesting movie in a sense that it was just nonstop jury deliberation in this very hot room, kind of added to the tension of these jurors, like ready to stab each other with the knife, the murder weapon, or in one instance, the loudmouth guy says, "I'm going to kill you," to Henry Fonda. So high drama in this one, definitely good acting. A little bit slow paced. I thought it was kind of long, in an hour and 36 minutes, but I suppose it's kind of short compared to a real life jury deliberation. So it's kind of interesting to see how juries come to a decision in 1957, especially with the idealist Henry Fonda there smoking cigarettes and espousing his views on the case, which were kind of unique and definitely insightful. I suppose if I had gone on that jury, I would have voted non-guilty too, just based on what everybody was saying. Especially Henry Fonda had a pretty good, strong case against a guilty verdict. So I thought Henry Fonda's character was really good. I didn't really care for the other guys as much. But I think each one had some insight that gradually had them voting in favor of not guilty. Like I said, I don't want to spoil the ending, but let's just say initially the vote is 11-1 guilty, and you can kind of guess what it turns out to be at the ending. Yeah, I guess I wouldn't spoil it if I said it was 12-0 not guilty, which is kind of surprising because the prejudice guy and the loudmouth guy, I didn't think they would ever change their minds. But I guess they broke down. That's not the real ending, though. The real ending occurs when they're done. And they kind of disperse, go their separate ways. So I guess I'm not spoiling the real ending in that sense. But yeah, it was an alright movie. 3 out of 5 stars. Laters.